So I grew up in a house that was not Christian. And when I was really young, probably about 10 years old, me and my sister were invited by a neighbor to go to church. And so we went, and they gave an offer for Christ. And we weren't really sure what it meant, but we thought that that's what we wanted. So we raised our hand and we accepted God, but there was no follow-up. We never went back to church. We never went, never knew anything about the Bible. But looking back, I feel that God had grabbed a hold of me at that point. So then, we moved forward and we're growing up, and, I grew up in basically a non-Christian street for the most part. By the time I was like 14, a guy I met at school introduced me to crystal meth. He's like, hey, try this stuff out. Man, it was great. By the time I was 15, 16, we were drinking, we were partying, we were going down to TJ, fighting pretty much every single weekend. And to me, I thought all that stuff was kind of normal because, my friends did it. We thought it was normal. And then I met a girl in high school, and she was a Christian. Yes, I married her. That was 33 years ago, and so she told me about God, and I was like, oh man, yeah, if that's what it takes to hang out with you, then sure, yeah, no, I'm totally down with the things of God, I'm totally in that, that's cool. And my wife's sister introduced me to the gospel. She told me about the things of God, and she really explained what Jesus was and invited me to church. In Timothy, it talks about the appearance of godliness without the power, right? Denying the power. I had no power in Christ. Not to give up drugs, not to give up lying, not to give up, lust, not to give up any of these things. And so I was kind of living like a funky life, I'm like going to church, my wife thinks I'm this godly guy, and I wasn't. And, we had been married, we had 2 kids, and we moved up to Normal Heights, and the opportunity to use drugs was right there. I mean, my neighbor used it, he sold it, I was using more and more and more, and lying more and more and more to my wife. And eventually, everything was falling apart. And my oldest sister, I was using drugs with her, but then she got clean and she got saved. And she's like, listen, you gotta tell your wife what's going on, or else I'm gonna tell her. And she did. She told my wife, and my wife was super gracious, and she was like, I knew something. She thought I was cheating on her. She knew something was on, like I'd go get a gallon of milk and be gone for 3 hours, So I went into a program for a couple of weeks and came out, and I still used for a couple more years. And she came to the church, and she's like, listen, my husband's using drugs, and he's lying, and he's spending our money, and I'm trying to pay the bills, and he's spending the money, and the church said, well, you probably want to leave him, not divorce him, but leave him, kick him out. And my wife's like, this is a counsel from the church, like when I married him, through sickness, through health, like she went back and read the actual vows, and she's like, no, I'm not gonna leave him, but I'm gonna pray. And she had everybody she knew praying, and that's one of the main reasons I'm right here right now, is because of prayer. Amen. Finally, God had put circumstances in my life. I got arrested, and I had to go to court, and they called me back in. They're like, listen, you need to do this many meetings in this amount of time. So I went to meetings every day. There was a moment where I said, God, listen, I'm going to give you a shot. I'm going to give you 100%. And I did. I went to meetings, NA meetings every single day. 6 months in, man, the Lord told me, hey, you're gonna start leading meetings, you're gonna start helping other people. And really, God really grabbed a hold of my heart, man. I had a thirst for the word, a hunger for the word, a hunger to serve, a hunger to just do the things of God. I should have been in prison for multiple charges. I should have been dead multiple times, or just loony. But today, God has given me a sound mind. God has given me a thirst for the things of God, a hunger for the things of God. And in the Bible it says, he who is forgiven much loves much. I cling to that verse because I've been forgiven so much. And I love much. I love people, and part of my testimony is what God brought me from. And part of my testimony is where God's bringing me to. And I'm super excited because God's moving in my heart, and he's opening my eyes. And what I thought I had victory over, I'm like, dude, that wasn't victory. This is victory. And what I think victory is today, next year, they'll be like, dude, I'm moving more. I'm going deeper. God has given me a heart for certain things and a heart for the lost, a heart for the people that don't know Christ. I'm not 100% in on that, right? But God's getting me there, and I can see that because now I have a love for people. I didn't know I was able to love everybody. I thought I was just able to love you guys, which are easy to love. But God says, no, man, you can love everybody, right? Phil taught, you don't see a person for their issue. You see a person for who they are. And man, that broke chains, man. I mean, that broke chains. I was bound to thinking I couldn't love everybody, but I can. And so can you.